Welcome to the Depressy podcast.
I'm Missy.
And I'm Allie.
And we're sisters
in the mental health field.
Talking about all things stressy
and depressy.
Big disclaimer on this episode.
Huge.
We're coming in hot. This is not meant to be clinical advice, okay? You might think in this episode, so you need to be really careful. Do not interpret this as clinical advice because it may have the trappings, but it's not.
Opinions. We are in training. This is observations that we have had and things that we are learning that we wanted to talk about and just share with you guys, but this is not meant in any way to replace the advice of like a therapist or a doctor who's taking care of you. That is much more important. But maybe just we're just talking about things to think about.
If you're in the field and you know more about this topic than us, which is probably true if you're in the field, then let us know like what we got wrong and help us clarify some things in the comments section.
I don't know how that recorded. Hopefully it was okay.
Hopefully we have something in there for you.
Yeah, basically there's a lag between what Missy and I are saying. So Missy, in order to do our intro in a way that it sounds like it's one after another and not like a huge pause between what we're saying, she needed to talk over me. So
yes, we really break the fourth wall here in Depressy.
I know. Do you think it's like a headphone thing? Like it's taking a sec?
I don't think so. I actually think if anything that could be helping it, but because otherwise there'd be an echo, right? Like, I don't know. I think it's probably a Wi-Fi thing, but whatever. Okay.
Do you think it's my Wi-Fi or your Wi-Fi?
I could honestly be both because I know Jacob's like using intensely working right now. So like,
I feel like it's your Wi-Fi. I just like have a feeling in my heart.
Well,
okay. Should we start off with our stressy depressies of the week?
Let's start off. Do you want to go first?
I have a great one today.
Okay.
This happened. Do you know what I'm going to talk about?
I mean, maybe. I'm scared.
Okay. So I was cleaning this weekend. Or no, it was like a little bit ago.
Wait, yes.
Yes. Okay. I think it was last weekend, actually, like 2 weeks ago. And I was not wearing my glasses. Viewers know that it's just a whole saga. Like, I can't believe how many episodes of Stressy Depressy my eyes have caused. But it's just my reality. So basically, I'm cleaning without my glasses on because I'm just like, whatever, do I really need to see everything? So my cat, Cassie, the beautiful angel, has these like cardboard scratching pads that she scratches at, and they're lovely, but they cause these little bits of cardboard to like go everywhere. And when I say like every day, every week, I am like vacuuming up these like cardboard pieces. They get everywhere. They even somehow like get up on the couch. So I see one on like the TV stand area. And so I'm like, in cleaning mode anyway. So I just go and pick it up. And then I look at my finger and I have picked up a wasp with my bare hands. And the scream, I scrumped. It was so crazy. Like, I genuinely think I haven't ever screamed a guttural scream like that, like, ever in my whole life. It was like a horror scene, like when you're like, the woman's like washing her face in the sink and then she looks up at the mirror and like sees someone behind her and screams. Like, that's what it felt like. Like, I thought I was just picking up cardboard and then it's a literal wasp in my hand. I think the wasp was somewhat injured already. Like, I think it was just kind of like lounging on its back and it just was like moving its legs. So when I picked it up, thankfully I was not like picking it up by the stinger. I like was just on either side of it and its legs were just like, but it wasn't like trying to fly away. And so I drop it immediately just back on the TV stand. And I luckily like literally just gone to Target and had like a pack of tissues like that I was going to put away like right there. So I like grabbed a wad of tissues and just like smush it and throw it out. But my heart is beating so quickly. I immediately call everyone I know. I actually think, Missy, you were the first call I made. And I was like, you will never like guess what just happened. I was like, the scariest thing just happened to me.
I was like, did you get mugged? What happened?
No, literally. I was it was so traumatizing. And I think in some way it was a wake-up call because I didn't realize how much I couldn't see. The fact that I truly, like, it wasn't that far away from me, and I thought it was a piece of cardboard, and it was fully a wasp. Like, different colors, different shape, textures, everything. So hopefully my transition glasses come soon and I'm gonna be a whole different woman.
Dang. Yeah. This is like a way different scenario, but one of my good friends got glasses in high school, and I feel like it's tough because it's so gradual. If your vision starts to
Hmm.
worsen, and you may just like be straining more and not realize that certain things you can't see, right? And I remember distinctly, she was like having some trouble seeing the boards, then she got glasses, and she was walking around in our high school, and we just had like tile floors that had like dots on them, and she looked down and she goes, "Oh my god, there are speckles on the floor." Like, she had never noticed that the
No,
floor was speckled. She just thought it was like one solid color, and that was a less like scary version of what you just described. But yeah, it's like you just don't even notice what it is you're
I
not
do feel
seeing.
like we grew up with this story of like mom one time or dad, someone, I think it was mom though, like getting a box of cereal and like pouring the cereal
Oh
out and
my
then
god,
just
yeah.
so absent-mindedly just like started like eating the
Taking a
cereal
bite.
and then realized that there was like bugs in the cereal. Like, that story has traumatized me to the point where like I always look. Like,
Same with
I
my
always look at
cereal
the cereal. I'm
specifically.
like, it's truly like mom would tell this story like cautionary tale because this happens to all of
A
us.
plug for mindfulness, anyone, everyone.
Wait, I have a great, this is like also, I feel like it's just like childhood things that you grew up with that then like scarred you a little bit, like
Yeah,
stories.
yeah.
We had this, like, truly rest in peace. We never met her, but my
It was like
great
a
aunt,
great aunt, I
great
think.
great aunt, I love that you knew where I was going with this.
Yeah, yeah.
So we grew up with this horrible story that my dad would tell us that his great aunt, so our great great aunt, like died because the bath water was too hot, which is what I understood. What happened was she like turned the bath water on, and I guess back in the olden days, it could get really hot, that bath water. I'm sure it can get hot now, but super hot. And then she went in and, couldn't get out. And she actually died because the bath water was so hot. I took this and Missy took this too, and we had
Yeah.
never talked about this. We had never like further conversed. We had just heard this story and internalized it the same way that if you got into the shower or bath or water that was too hot, you could just die. Like that it wasn't
Yeah.
like a scalding issue, that it was just like if the water is too
It's too
warm,
hot.
was just a little hotter than, might be good, you will
You may see
die.
the end
You
of your
may
life.
die.
Yeah.
Truly,
Um,
because I feel like he probably didn't want to scare us as kids, but that ended up scaring us more. Like the fact that
yeah.
he probably didn't use the word like scalding, burn, like things like
Right,
that,
right.
probably
Also, I
just,
don't think I had fully understood, like, she was pretty old, which again, it's still a really awful, sad story. It's just like I think there were a few factors that, like, given her old age, she had trouble getting out of the bath, and so
right.
even
Totally
getting this,
not
yeah, wasn't
not
putting this
understanding,
together.
yes, that our agile young selves might dip our feet and feel it is too warm and
Yeah,
immediately remove ourselves from the water. Like, that was not my understanding. My understanding was you get in, it's too hot, you might die. And so, without talking to each other ever about this again, we heard this story when we were little. We were taking lukewarm showers the rest of our lives.
literally, my whole childhood, I was like, can't be too hot, can't be
Can't
too
be too
hot.
hot because our great great aunt died that way.
Literally.
It's just something that can happen sometimes if the shower's too, and this is like going on through teenagehood. Like,
No,
I don't rem
literally.
I don't
I
remember
at
when
some
we
point
talked about this.
At some point, I started to like. I think I gained more probably perspective because I feel like we talked about it, but by that point we had already independently realized that we probably had a
Yeah.
skewed version of the story. But Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like this is a thing that people grow up where like their parents just offhandedly mention something or even tell their kids something that like maybe their parents believe to be true but isn't actually quite true or something like that. And like then the kid just grows up thinking that's completely normal, eventually being like, wait, everyone else takes warm showers? Like
No,
that's a
literally.
thing.
Now Lucas would say that my showers are scalding. Um,
Yes. No, that is a thing for me. Whenever I'm in the shower, Jacob's always like, how are you like doing that? That is so hot.
no, literally. But we like talked to my dad about it. I don't know how it came up somehow. And we were like, Dad, did you know that we both independently, like for the rest of our childhood up through like high school, we're taking like
Cold
cold
shower.
showers?
Yeah.
And he was like, that is not what I meant for you to get from this
And it was
story.
totally fair. I don't blame him. This happens with parenthood, but it is just like,
I don't know why he wanted us to get away from the story,
I'm
though.
sure there was context. Like, I mean, maybe,
I
I
think
don't
it was
know.
something like before you girls get in the bath, mom and dad need to be there, and we also need to check the temperature.
Sure, maybe.
I think that
I
was
mean,
probably the
yeah. But
takeaway.
tell us in the comments if your parents had something like this where they told you something maybe to like scare you a little bit, but they didn't, it like you took it way too far and then realized later in life that actually this thing was, you went a little overboard. Or if your parent was
Yes.
like, just said something that is like, actually you learned wasn't like super correct. And then you were like, wait, does that no one else do this?
No, for
Tell us in the
real.
comment section because I think this is more common than
I
just our
think so.
situation. Yeah.
Okay, miss, you want to
Okay,
share
my
your
stressy
stressy
depressy.
depressy?
I actually don't know. I can't remember if I told you about this. It happened on Thursday. Maybe I told you at the time. I can't remember. But our in our new apartment, our shower is like really sloped bathtub and we kind of like we're like, "Oh, it's a little slippery. We should be careful." You probably see where this is going. I was in a rush on Thursday morning and I
Did you?
slipped and took a fall and
Oh
got a
my
massive
gosh.
little bruise on my patootie.
That hurts. It hurts really
It
bad.
hurt and it was scary. And then there was a bunch of things running through my mind, including like I was in a rush because we had parked on the street and we needed to move our car because there was street cleaning. And also just like I had a bunch of other things to do that morning. I'm also training for a half marathon right now that's happening in like a week and a half. And so at that time, this was a week ago, but I was like, wait, oh my God, I'm running this half marathon. Like, what is that going to mean? And this just like shows you, I feel like if you weren't convinced of how rigid I am before and how much of a routine girly I am before this story will illustrate it for you, which is that my husband, being the super caring man that he is, like came running in and he was like, "Are you okay? What can I do?" He had a like breakfast plan that morning, like a meeting for over breakfast, and he was like, let me maybe see if that person can like meet by our car so that I can be there like moving it or something. And I literally, and he was like, let me get you ice, you need to rest, you need to like get out of the shower. I literally was like yelling at him. I was like, just let me finish my shower, like I just need to finish my shower. I was like, I have conditioner in my hair and that is my next priority. Like I can't like also I think what was tough for me is that and I literally wouldn't let him move it. He did eventually get it was like more of an informal meeting and like this person actually did end up going to the car with him and then I was able to like swap off because spoiler alert, I'm pretty much totally fine now. But but yeah, basically like was insisting. I was like, you can't move your meeting. No, because just like in my head, the sequence of events was like set in stone. And I was like, I'm finishing my shower. I'm going to the car. Like that is the plan. And like the thought of like everything changing. And not only that, but on the macro level being like, what about my half marathon? What if I can't, like, we are
Wow.
supposed to take a long drive that night? What if, like, I can't do that? Like,
Wow.
all these things were just, like, it was, like, too much for me. And I was like, I just need to finish my shower right now.
I think that is
And
a little more how Lucas is sometimes.
yeah,
But the difference is that I feel that when I'm stressed, I'm like word vomiting. Like everyone knows exactly what I'm stressed about. This even happened last night. where I was stressed about something, if you recall, and
I
I could
do.
not wait to have conversations, and then I thought of something else and I had to call that person back, and then I hung up
Yeah.
the phone, and then I thought of something else and I needed to call that person back again because I was
Yeah.
like, and another thing.
Yeah.
Um I can't, like, there's no inside thoughts for me. Like, everyone knows what I'm stressed about when I'm stressed about it, but Lucas is much more like, he just has a lot of thoughts in his head that are worrying him. But I'm like, I'm trying to predict what it is sometimes. Sometimes I can do it. I know things that will make him stressed, but it's hard to predict what his thoughts are. I feel like sometimes it's hard for me too to know what you're stressed about because in my brain, like, you falling, like, you're not necessarily verbalizing, like, what about my half marathon? You're just like thinking all of these thoughts in your head that are stressing you out. So, like,
Yeah.
any way that I'm offering to help isn't actually like addressing your concerns because your
Yeah.
stresses are like so internalized.
I also think that's true, definitely. It takes me like I actually can't put it into words in that moment though. Like
Mm,
it's definitely something that I think could be I try to work on to explain to Jacob why I'm like yelling at him to just let me finish my shower even though he's being so nice and caring. But I feel like more than that, it's not that I'm like anxious per se. You know, like I take a minute and I think and I'm like, okay, it wouldn't be the end of the world if I couldn't run the half marathon. It's like there is like a level of just rigidity and comfort in like this is what I set out to do. So when it
mm,
changes, it's like I am on it feels like I'm a train running on a track that's taken off the track all of a sudden. And I'm like like I'm wobbling just in space. I don't know if you imagine like
yeah.
the train just wobbling in the dirt and there's nowhere for it to go. It's like I don't like I just need to get back on a track and it can be a different one. Like but I need to like know what that track is and it's
Interesting.
so
Yeah.
hard for me when like I was full speed ahead in one direction, especially in a moment like that where there's the macro level, I'm doing this training, and on the micro level, it's like I'm rushing because I finish the shower, eat a little something, and then run to the car because they're gonna ticket me otherwise. You know,
Right.
like with that level, it's like everything needs to fall into place, and the fact that
Yeah.
anyway, yeah,
I would say the way I could relate to that the most is like my touch of rejection sensitive dysphoria,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
which is very hard to explain because it's not, people think about that like, oh, you get rejected from something you want to do. Like, it's not that. I've gotten
yeah,
like job rejections, I've gotten like rejections professionally, rejections like, or like, I don't even know. I don't feel like necessarily like if I want to be someone's friend and they don't want to be friends back, it's not even that scenario. It's like these micro moments that I take so seriously sometimes of like feeling
you're like
like,
interpreting the scenario as this means they don't like me or this means
yes.
yeah,
But it's so interesting because it doesn't happen like when I'm like meeting someone new. Like, for example, like if I'm on a new rotation in medical school and I feel like the resident might not like me, I'm like, whatever. Like, I like obviously I want that. That's a little stressful, but I'm like, I feel capable of like handling that in my heart as long as they're not being like mean to me. It's more like, oh, they thought I did a bad job and now they hate me. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, in a personal thing, like, let's say, I'm like trying to think of like a concrete example. It's like when people very close to me do something that I wouldn't expect them to do, and then I feel like it's a reflection of like, oh, that must mean that they don't like me. Like,
yeah.
I feel like
I
I've
feel like
had,
it's like a close cousin of shame. Like it's a variant of shame where you think like something means shame is where like you feel like it's sort of like guilt where you feel like you might have done something wrong, but you kind of take it to mean something larger about yourself. Like that means mean I'm a failure. I am fundamentally bad. It's like a cousin of that where it's like other people their action must mean not only that in this even if they are say a little annoyed at you, it must mean they like actually don't like me, like something larger
yeah,
about you.
it's
Yeah.
so irrational, but I would say, like, and I'm even able to like understand that sometimes during the time. but I do really relate to that feeling of feeling like I'm just wobbling and feeling like I'm in like a dark cloud space. And I've
Yeah.
gotten much better at just like truly realizing that in those moments I need to like just take a bit to calm down, because I do feel like that specific emotion for me is like a wave, like they talk about in like
Yeah.
DBT stuff
Yeah.
and mindfulness. I have learned that I need to not act on that, because I
Yeah.
always act incorrectly when I feel that way. Like
Yeah.
whatever my brain is telling me, it either tells me to like overcompensate, it will tell me to like apologize a billion
Yeah.
times, or try to make it right, or on the other side it will tell me to like lash out and get angry. Both things are incorrect. Usually I am just like, it's a miscommunication. So I
Yeah.
truly just separate myself. I need a moment. Usually it's gone within like 30 minutes, like truly that quickly. That just crushing feeling I get. But yeah, I feel like that's my closest I can relate to when you feel very out of balance, when like a plan isn't going correctly.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, and I feel like we
Yeah.
could probably do a whole other episode on, I feel like it might not be a term that people are so familiar with, but I rejection sensitive dysphoria is so big, and I feel like especially in our young adult era of like even like college age 20s, 30s, it can be so big. So I feel like maybe we should do a whole episode on that. Let us know if
Yeah,
that would
I'm
be
just trying to
interesting
think
to
of like a
people.
more concrete example just quickly so people understand kind of what I'm talking about. I feel like an example that has happened in my life is like, let's say a friend is coming to my city
Hmm.
that lives in a different city and doesn't reach out to me to say, I'm here in Philly.
Yeah.
That makes me spiral. I'm like, we must not be as close as I thought, instead of realizing like they might be here for a very specific reason. I'm not able to access that like in the moment. So like that would be an example of like totally misinterpreting situations, just getting that quick kind of like understanding and just running with
Yeah.
it and having my emotions go wild.
No, totally. Yeah, I definitely get thrown into a state when like things just I just had a plan, and I people are always like, what are you worried about? I don't, and that is where I think it, while there's probably a relationship to anxiety, it's not quite how I describe there's not necessarily something I'm worried about. Like I said, if I get put on another track, that's fine to me, but it's like the being completely dislodged, I get like really frenzied for a minute. Anyway,
Yeah.
so long story short, I took some rest days. I did lots of icing, some Advil, and we're
I
basically
can't
fully
believe you
healed.
didn't tell me about this. Well, I
I
was
feel
kind of
like it was just
busy.
like I was too, because we were both away this weekend, and I feel like that's a good segue to this topic for today.
What was this weekend?
This weekend was Allie's birthday.
What?
Woohoo!
As you guys know, well, actually, I don't know
I
if you
don't know
know.
that people know. We've maybe
Anyone
this has been a
who
seed planted. Allie's a Leo.
I I'm a Leo. Do I believe in astrology? I don't know. I don't really have a stake in the game. I would say no. It's not like I believe or disbelieve. I just don't even like
It's not your
engage
thing.
really. It's not my thing, but I think it's fun, but I'm not like, I don't have any thoughts about it. It's probably not true. Like, but it's fun. I
But it
am a
is true
Leo.
in
It
the sense that you're a Leo.
When people meet me and they are into it and they're like, "Oh, you're a Leo." Like that makes sense.
And why is
I
that specifically
I
in relation to your birthday?
love being center of attention. And I feel like people sometimes don't predict that about me, because I'm not someone constantly demanding attention. Like I'm not doing things to have all eyes on me. Like generally, like I feel like I'm just like a typical person. I'm
I
not
feel like the
like,
majority of people would not describe you as having like a big personality. You know what I
no,
mean?
I feel like I
Yeah,
have
if for
a
most in most settings
neutral,
you're pretty neutral. Yeah.
feel like I'm like a bubbly person, but I am like not demand. I'm not like at a party and all eyes are on me. Like that's definitely not the case. I don't even like really have birthday parties ever. Like it's
But
not even like,
you do have like
but what
birthday
do I
marathon
have?
events.
I do have birthday marathon events. Okay, I do love though when I am the center of attention. I feel like I don't put myself in positions to be center of attention, but when I am, I'm like, this is great. Love it. Like drama club, yes, look at me. Just, I always loved like performing as a kid, like no matter what it was, like gymnastics, cheerleading, ice skating. Like it was always like performance things that I did, and then drama club in high school. I love it. And I also, I remember my therapist when I had in high school, she asked me about my bat mitzvah, and she was like, "Oh, I see you as just like kind of having like a low key thing." I was like, I thought you knew me. No, but I just feel like people may not get that vibe from me, but
Yeah,
it is
that's
the truth. Like
interesting.
for my bat mitzvah, I wore a tiara. Like,
Literally. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
yeah.
I can't even comment on the old photos because I feel like I was going through a bit of an awkward phase at that time. So it's like I also look strange. I was going through a phase,
Oh,
but
I fully respect my old self. I
yeah,
think that's the
yeah,
other thing is I never really feel embarrassed because I know how much I loved it. Like
yeah, yeah.
during
I
each
appreciate
time
that.
in my life, I was like, there's never a time where I wore an outfit that I wasn't excited to wear, you know? So like I just I'm all for it. Like whatever. I love that I wore a tiara and like a teal sparkly dress. Like it was
Like
so me.
poofy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with
yeah,
my little like pout expander mouth, so like my teeth had like a gap in them. Yeah,
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. A
what a
lovely time.
journey.
Um,
But yeah, no, and so
yeah.
like my wedding is like wedding events. It's truly like I'm eating it up. Like I love being a fiance, love being a bride, and birthdays. I mean, they're your day. And I will say the only person that I would ever do a joint birthday celebration with is our brother's girlfriend, Sammy, who has her birthday 3 days earlier than me.
Yes.
And that was a big deal for me to share my
It was
birthday dinner
big.
with
It
her
was big.
because I was going away to visit a friend this weekend. It was going to be on my birthday that I was leaving to go see her, just because that's like how the timing worked out. And it was lovely seeing her and her new baby, actually. Like her husband was going to be away. So, like, that was the timing. And I jumped on the opportunity. But yeah, it was like a little weird that I wasn't going to be around a lot of people for my birthday. So we did a birthday celebration a little bit earlier. And I shared it with Sammy because we just did like right in the middle of both of our birthdays. And birthdays are a big deal in our family too.
They're a huge deal. I feel like our parents are big into birthdays, or especially our mom is, but like we were also, this is a bit of an anomaly that we all growing up pretty much didn't have school on our birthdays because you and
Yeah,
Alex both have summer birthdays. And my birthday is was always during winter break. And so
right.
we always had growing up our entire day free. So it was like
I never
you are
thought
the
about
center of
that.
attention. You get to choose from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed. Basically,
Everything.
we had activities, we had a big dinner, like we'd always have a dinner with our family. Our birthday party would often actually not fall on that day because most people tended to be like traveling. It was like we actually would have like a separate
Right,
birthday
like
party with
kid birthday
friends.
parties.
But
Yeah.
like our that day was like okay, like I'm waking up, I'm going to the playground. I don't know, like we got to choose
Yes.
basically.
And then for like dinner that night, even though like our friend birthday parties would be a different time, like a lot of our extended family would come over that night to help us
Yes.
celebrate birthday. We were never going over to their houses for their children, whatever, just help. And
No, it's true.
I didn't clock that. I didn't clock that it was like an our family thing to like literally go all out for birthdays. You got whatever cake you wanted, like
Yeah.
literally whatever you wanted, whoever you wanted there was gonna be there, like grandparents, cousins, like
I wouldn't have even been able to fathom like someone having a conflict. Like I was
no,
like,
it was like
obviously
it's
they're gonna
my
be at my
birthday.
birthday.
But
Like,
we're still like that as adults. Like I'm like, oh, it's your birthday, like I will drop everything for you. Like
oh yeah, I think this comes with us trying to be that way for other people. Like it
a
kind of like
hundred
doesn't
percent.
compute for me when people are like, it's okay, like and I've been more as an adult, I think I've had to get used to that a bit more when people
No,
can't come to my
literally.
birthday. Or
I'm like,
like
it's my birthday, but also I've had experiences where like I'm okay, I feel like because I'm in like the medical field, then you see like their name and then their date of birth. And there'll be a lot of times I've had people are just in the doctor's office on their birthday, like some random appointment. Like it's not an urgent appointment. It's just
Yeah.
like truly like you're here to talk about how like you might have sleep apnea and you're
Right.
here on your birthday. And I'm
I
like,
know.
girly, I'll literally come in and be like, happy birthday. Oh my gosh. Any fun plans? They're like, not really. I'm turning 60 today. I'm like, I don't know if it's an age thing, but in general, I feel like I get so excited for people's birthdays and I go all out for them. And then people are like, huh? Like, why do you
Yeah.
care that much? That is my
I know,
birthday.
I know, I know. And does this ever, and then we can transition to our big topic today, but I actually am curious, connecting to what we were just talking about actually. Does this ever connect to your rejection sensitive dysphoria? If people are like, I can't come to your birthday, or they're not like being as like into your birthday as you
If
are?
they're not being as into my birthday, yes, but I don't have the same expectations for friends on my birthday. I actually do feel that, I mean, you have more lowercase t trauma with this, like, and
Yeah,
actually one of my friends also does too, who has like a very similar birthday to yours.
interesting.
You know who I'm talking about? Yeah. Who like never got their locker decorated, like, but I do feel like my friends, especially in my adult life, like Erin came down for my birthday. I'm visiting my friend for my
Yeah.
birthday who like took me out to dinner, was like gave me a birthday present, like so excited to see me on my birthday. So I feel like I have not experienced that, but I will say like I remember it was like during COVID era. This is all to say like it
Okay.
was an outdoor activity. We're all kayaking and so Missy and I both have this issue where sometimes when we're sitting for a long time, we sometimes get like a rash if we're like sitting in like uncomfortable clothing or like it's like a wet area.
I
Like,
was like in a wet bathing suit, like my whole, it was just like I was,
and so Missy
and you
got
all know I
really
have hives,
itchy.
like, yeah.
So she is like kayaking away from me and Lucas, who are in the same boat. And then
Yeah.
Sammy and Alex were also there. And they kind of went like on the first fork, they went on a different side and had got into the like where it connects earlier and they thought they were behind. They thought we had all gotten there earlier.
Yeah.
And so they were trying to paddle to catch up. But from my vantage point, they are paddling to get away from me. Like I can see them getting away. Missy's paddling away from me because she has itchy disease. And then I don't know where my mom and dad were. Honestly, I can't recall what was going on.
I
Um,
should clarify this was like a body wrap. It sounds like we're getting more gross than this really was for me. Maybe
oh
I should,
yeah,
I'm going into too much detail, but like,
it was a body
the,
rash.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
not,
yeah.
you know, in a
Don't
cakey
get,
area.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so I start crying
Yeah.
because I have
That
very high
was,
expectations of my birthday, which is very Leo of me. I don't know.
I feel like this could be a good transition, and I can maybe share my lowercase t trauma throughout the episode with my
Sure.
birthday, because maybe this could be a good transition to our main topic for today, which is, am I a narcissist?
Missy texted me this, and I was like, hmm. But I actually do think there's space to just talk about like mental health in general
Yeah.
and labels and what things mean, um, versus like what is actually useful for
Well, when
people.
I say this phrase, when I throw out, okay, we've just been talking about your birthday, how much you love your birthday. When I throw out, am I a narcissist next to that? Like, what are the connotations that you're taking with that?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I think it's a little different because I am like in the psych space
Sure,
where
sure.
I'm like, no, I know I'm not a narcissist, but I think it's very
Ooh,
like
but I think that we could get into even that sentence in this.
that I know I'm not a narcissist. I mean, I'm
No,
pretty sure
no,
I
just
don't have a personality disorder.
even this idea that there is such a thing as a narcissist or not. Do you know what I
I
mean?
I hear what you're saying, but I do think
Yeah.
there's people who genuinely have narcissistic personality disorder, like from
I think there's people who are very high, and we can get to this on. There's a trait called narcissism, which we all have some level of. There's people who have a
yes,
lot of
correct.
that trait, which with any trait in high doses, that can cause a lot of problems. So I'm not saying there's not people who are have really, really are like caused really difficult things to their life to have high doses of this narcissism. But what I will push back on is that there's something that is a hard binary delineation between I have this or I don't have.
That's fair. That's fair. I will say I do, but again, I think it's very different, the I can't, use of it, which is like you are always putting yourself first. You don't care about others' feelings. You're a very manipulative person. Like, so that would be the kinds of things that I would think about if someone were calling just generally someone a narcissist. Again, there's like an actual DSM-5 like definition of like a personality disorder that is narcissism. But obviously like we create labels for different diagnoses, and it is a spectrum, like, because people, I mean, you could just read through the list and there's definitely things that I relate to in different elements.
Well, another thing that we should say, I mean, and this is like, first of all, take this with like a huge grain of salt because this is not the consensus in the field by any stretch. But there are many people I think who are on the same page as me, which is that these diagnoses, it's not to say that they're not like meaningful and that they can't like absolutely be a useful way of conceptualizing people's presentations, but they are made up. Like, we have no science has gone into developing these diagnoses. They are fully made up by people who have like varying levels of connection to the field, to be honest. And again, it's not to say sometimes they can be absolutely very helpful if you are naming like, okay, like I'm not just, let's say, a little depressed. I have a high level of depression that's so strong it's really causing me problems in my life. I need to seek treatment. Labeling that as major depressive disorder for some people may be very useful to like kind of name and validate like what it is they're going through, similar to how you might get diagnosed with like cancer or diabetes to name a biological process going on with you, right? So I'm not saying that everyone needs to throw these out entirely, but I think the flip side of this is that when people say, oh, like I'm not fully meeting this criteria, like it can actually be a double-edged sword where it can add stigma to be like, oh, I don't have depression, I don't have anxiety, I don't have this personality disorder, even if maybe they're like, they have a cluster of symptoms that are causing them problems in their life. And like I've had people be like, oh, I don't have OCD or I don't have this like disorder because it's only presenting in this way. And that's not, typically it's presenting in more areas of people's life. And my answer is always like, we all have levels of these traits. Like no one has zero anxiety. No one has zero like narcissism. We could talk about actually like the negatives of having very low narcissism. But I think, yeah, that's the idea that like these diagnoses are meant to capture maybe when people are at like very high levels of certain of these traits, but they're not going to map on perfectly to everyone's experience. And like, that's okay. I don't know.
It's interesting. I think we do have to be careful when we say made up, because I understand what you mean, meaning that humans have categorized these things, but if you actually look at like the biology of the brain, I personally feel that we probably couldn't tell the difference between like a schizotypal personality disorder or like a schizoid personality disorder in looking at like the actual biological basis. However, they do present differently. And on the other hand, I would say that having these classifications allows us to have evidence-based treatments for different things, because if there are strict criteria for inclusion for studies, then we can like validate certain treatments in a very like uniform way. For example, things like antipsychotic medications being helpful for diagnoses of schizophrenia, like that is validated because that's a very specific
I know, but I also
diagnosis.
feel like that's, and we can, honestly, I feel like we could do a whole episode on this, so we won't get too far in the weeds because we want to get back to narcissism, but I feel like there's another side to that I've seen, and I think maybe at the more acute level where people have these like more severe medically presenting diagnoses like schizophrenia or psychosis, it can make more sense. But that's because that's how our medical system works. And I think what it
Correct.
ends up doing for a lot of people who are not at that very severe level is we have all these treatments for very specific types of presentations that people fit into. But actually, most people that I've seen in outpatient work do not map on to one of
I
those
think that's the
diagnoses.
important part.
And
because
then we're left to like fill in the gaps with our own clinical judgment versus having more flexible treatments that recognize that no one's perfectly mapping on to these diagnoses.
yeah, I think I agree with that. I think I just want to be careful to say that like if you have been diagnosed with a certain thing, it actually can be
Oh,
like
of course. Yeah.
validating sometimes, and I'm not saying that's
100%.
made up.
Yeah.
That's
No,
I
no,
think what I
no.
want to be important to say that like I mean it's validating for me to like be diagnosed with ADHD, right? Like again, we do see some like biological differences, but we don't have currently like the mechanism to actually like diagnose it through any like tests that are like scan or some kind of blood test or anything like that. But humans have noticed this pattern and, there's some biological basis and we have evidence-based treatments for that. However, there are people who don't meet that criteria who just have some difficulty focusing, for example, or people that don't meet the criteria for like generalized anxiety disorder, but still struggle with like anxiety around specific things, or it keeps them from doing or like living their life in the way that they want. So there are two sides of the coin. And I do agree that like, again, a lot of times because I'm in the medical environment, we see very extreme patterns of why if
Yeah.
someone's coming in to be inpatient, it's usually not like a blurry, or it can be, but a lot of times it's less blurry. This person's coming in with psychosis, this person's
No,
coming in due
100%.
to like borderline personality disorder. Like there's very specific kind of issues that will bring you into a hospital versus I
Yeah.
do agree that in the outpatient setting, I mean, there may not be a diagnosis even that we have in the DSM to perfectly describe what your personality is, what the issues that you're struggling with are, and that is an issue in the medical system and even in the therapy world, because in order to like bill insurance, you need to put in a
Yeah.
diagnosis code. And often it ends up being like adjustment disorder or otherwise specified. Like you have to put in something. You have to put in some kind of issue and
Catch all.
label in
Yeah.
order to, provide treatment to someone, and for it to be billed. Otherwise, you're just like
Yeah.
chatting away.
I
But it
know.
is
Which,
important.
yeah.
Yeah. And I
I
think
feel
that
like,
was part of my issue as well with like accepting, I think I talked about last episode, like going on a new medication,
yes.
because this medication is used to treat like bipolar, particularly bipolar 2. And I felt that I didn't meet the criteria. And my doctor agreed that I did not meet the criteria, but that I still was having like these cycles of depression on an SSRI. And he felt like in his clinical practice, this has been a useful drug, like
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the situation that I was in. But I had to, even as someone that knows that diagnoses are can be a blurry line and that things are a spectrum, it was very hard for me to accept that people would look in my chart, see this medication, assume something about me, or that to accept like, oh, I don't have that, so I shouldn't even try this treatment. Like I'm not sick enough or I'm not bad enough
Yeah.
to need this. So again, having those rigid lines can provide evidence-based treatment for people that are within those lines, but it can also stop people sometimes from receiving treatment who don't exactly meet that criteria, and also increase stigma because again, they view that group as like a very strict other instead of something that, can all be traits that we all experience and sometimes more extreme than others.
Exactly. And I feel like another point to that is that I think, and I agree with you, by the way. I do think I was a little too flippant with my diagnoses are made up. I think if you have a diagnosis and you are meeting criteria, like congratulations, our system has been set up to like actually accurately capture what you are going through, but that may not be a lot of other people's experience. And that's where I think it
Yeah.
like falls. Another place is that, and you kind of just were getting to this, the idea that actually when we say, okay, like for example, anxiety or narcissistic personality disorder, that insinuates that these traits are all bad. So anytime we experience anxiety or anytime we experience narcissism, let's say, that is inherently a bad thing and we should be trying to get rid of it. And instead, when we view these things as a spectrum, we can understand how having these things, yeah, in high doses may be absolutely hard on your life or even debilitating in some cases. But in smaller doses, like anxiety helps us plan for the future. That's not a bad thing, right? If we have we talked about how if we had no anxiety, we might like not care about anything and like not really plan, right? With narcissism, at its core, narcissism helps us understand that like our opinion matters and that we have some level of importance in this world.
Yeah,
There
I
is
feel like
absolutely a healthy level. And I'm, again, in high doses, absolutely it can be a bad thing. And we all probably know people we can think of where we're like, ooh, but like that person, that didn't work for them. But in small doses, I mean, we also probably all know people who don't know their self-worth.
yeah. But it's interesting because I do feel that you can have traits of narcissism and low self-esteem at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yes,
So
yes.
I don't want to directly say that like narcissism equals like having self-esteem.
No, it's not
Um,
having self-esteem, but I think it's sometimes for some people, and I'm not saying this is always the case, but when people have really high levels of narcissism, it could function to like mask underlying low levels of self-esteem. So your narcissism is kind of like putting you at the center or like forcing your opinion to get heard because otherwise you can't get your needs met.
mhm.
So, absolutely, sometimes it's true. Actually, ironically, people with the highest levels of narcissism have the lowest levels of like self-esteem. They're just kind of putting on a show. But I think for people where they have actually ironically lower levels of narcissism, though not like totally absent, might the idea is like, yeah, it's my birthday and like I want to have a birthday party. I don't know. Like, and not to
Yeah,
say that like that's a bad thing if you're not a birthday person. It could be anything. It could be like, I don't know, your spouse or your roommates always chooses what you get for dinner and you're like, "Hey, like actually I'm in the mood for this." And again, it's not every night that you're domineering exactly what you eat, but technically it could be quote unquote narcissism to be like in a small dose to be like,
right.
hey, I'm kind of in the mood for salmon. And even if your spouse is like, tonight I'm kind of feeling chicken instead, being like, I'm just really not in the mood. Again, not always, but sometimes just being like, no,
Yeah.
can we go my
I
way
feel like
today?
this metaphor is used so much. It's almost overused, but like on the plane, put on your
Yeah.
mask before you put on others. If you were
Yes. Yes.
truly such a selfless person that you never like ever thought about your own needs, you wouldn't survive. Like it's
100%.
impossible. And it's important that you survive. It's important that everyone take care of themselves. And there is a balance of like sometimes being very generous and loving towards others and caring from others, but there is a level of like self-sustaining quote narcissism that is needed where sometimes you do have to put yourself first above others. And that is all part of the complex human experience of how to navigate certain situations and ensure that you get enough and those around you that you care about and love are also getting enough. And it's going to be a give and take. um so yeah, I think also we've talked about this in like the almost like eating disorder world of
Mm,
almost having a lot of traits of self-discipline, which we
yeah.
think of as like self-discipline is great,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
very highly it's thought of as something that's very important for people to have. It enables them to go after goals and enables them to, live a very productive life because
Yes.
they do things for a long-term goal. And those who aren't able to do that may not be able to be successful. But on the other hand, if you're only looking for this long-term goal and not recognizing the needs that you have in this moment, that is not good. That is actually
Exactly. Exactly.
detrimental. Like you cannot, if you don't, for example, if your goal is to, obviously like, I don't want to say just like broadly like lose weight is the idea behind eating disorders, but in this context, let's say your only goal is to lose weight. if you're not feeding yourself right now, you may not even get to that goal because you may not survive, is like the bottom line.
Right, right.
Again, also your goal might just be overall detrimental and you're not able to look at like the whole impact of the situation because you're so narrowed in on that specific goal and your willpower is so high. You're able to like totally I can't like zone out.
Yeah,
anything,
totally. Exactly.
any
If there's
negative.
any, I saw this when I worked in the eating disorder setting where people would have really detrimental effects on their health, like be told like your, your heart is at risk, all these other things. And them being like so unable in some case at first, at least in some cases, to kind of like take that information into account because they had a goal in mind. And they're very good at achieving goals despite roadblocks and things that come up, right?
I always say that, like, well, always, that I feel that I was protected against getting an eating disorder. Obviously, this is a very oversimplification of eating disorders.
I think, again, we're talking about, like, restrictive eating disorders.
Restrictive eating disorders. I have I would say, a lower than average ability to truly like value long-term goals over current goals. And you might say, Allie, you're in med school. Allie, you're doing all this. So maybe I'm just comparing myself to those around me. I probably do have
I think you are.
Okay. But compared to my peers, I am like, well, I don't care about I would rather do worse on this test but go to the beach this weekend. Like, is my
totally
feeling. But I feel that I was even in times where I didn't like my body, I was never able to deal with any
translate that into steps. No, totally.
I was never able to take that into any concrete steps to be like my long-term goal. I'm like, long-term goal, if that means I can't have Oreos for dinner, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do about that. Like, that, again, oversimplification. But then I'm looking at someone like you who did have experiences of restrictive eating as a teen, and it's like, to me, so linked to just your ability to truly have like a quote self-discipline as a part of your long-term goal. And I 100% just don't have.
I think I've totally seen the other side of the coin where, I mean, just like I was talking about earlier with my rigidity, like it helps me so much to have like a set in stone plan that I execute on. But when things go awry, like I slip and fall in the shower, that throws me so much and it actually derailed my day. Like I'm almost like, I feel embarrassed to say this, but like literally it took me like probably an hour to fully like get back and be like, I'm gonna, and it's not like I was crying or something for that whole time, but it was just like, to be honest, like I had to like really recalibrate. Like it wasn't a matter of just like, okay, I'll do the next best thing, like someone who's more flexible might be able to do. I really had to, I feel like I can only operate when I have like such a set plan. So I had to like really go back to the drawing board, which took me a while. But okay, connecting it back to birthdays and narcissism. Because I do feel like we could probably do another episode at some point about diagnoses and is it real, is it not, or probably again more nuanced than that. But I think again, some level of narcissism and liking your birthday, I don't think that's a problem. But I do think that another side of the coin where narcissism can it's not to say you have a personality disorder by any means or someone feeling this way would, or that it's even a major clinical issue. But an example of where a slightly higher level of narcissism may be at play is where I know like you and I in different ways have had these like rejection sensitive moments around our birthdays because part of narcissism is assuming that other people's actions have to do with you. Like, oh, this must be because they're thinking about me, when really it might have nothing to do with you.
That's a really good point.
That something's happening, right? And so that is where narcissism can feed into like anxiety and depression in these ways.
Yeah.
Or again, not even talking about the clinical diagnoses of those things, but just like feeling more anxious or feeling slightly more sad or depressed. Like for me, I, and this is like, again, this is just so, I don't know if, again, if you're not convinced that I'm like the most type A rigid girly, I don't know how you wouldn't be by this point, but this will just seal the deal for you, is that growing up, having a winter break birthday was tough for me because although I had the whole day free, as we described, could have a really good like day on my birthday, there was a tradition where on people's birthdays, you could go into school early, your friends could coordinate to go into school early and decorate your locker so that when you got to school on your birthday, your locker would be all decorated. It was like really celebratory. And as a type A girly, I was always the friend. Like no matter, even when my friend group shifted, I was the person organizing this corral of people for every friend's birthday to be like, I'm getting there at 7:30. I'm making like, literally we're talking like when you could make like little chains out of paper and like put it as like a little streamer around their locker. Like we were very old school with this, printing out the like, what is it in Microsoft Word? Like the word art, happy birthday on like someone who had a printer in the library. Like, and no one would do it for mine. Like because we didn't have school, but I was always kind of secretly hoping, oh, maybe the last day before winter break or as soon as we get back from winter break, someone will do it. Not even a thought of my friends who are absolutely lovely. I will say my high school friends like learned how much of a sore spot this was for me, and they actually like literally went so above and beyond in high school for my birthday, and that warmed my heart in ways that I truly give them all a shout out for to this day. It I think enabled me to, it was just like the most like they saw me and they healed that wound a bit. But I've had other experiences in adulthood now where this has really hit some nerves. And like I won't go into detail because I think this is like, in adulthood now, but I feel like I've been in spaces where other people's birthdays have been like really celebrated because maybe we're all at work that day or we're all like together and mine's over break and it's like I got a text or something and I'm like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like it has nothing.
Last time we took all the day off and did a whole party for blah blah blah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know in my rational brain that it has nothing to do with me, but it really has taken me for a loop. And I think that's a bit narcissistic, to be honest. I don't even mean that. Again, I don't view these terms as pejorative. I think they're all levels of traits that we can just reflect on. And in that case, for me, a little too much narcissism because I just know there are a million priorities at different workplaces or settings that I've been in, like since high school, like college and stuff. And of course, it has nothing to do with me. Everyone likes me. No one's trying to like specifically target me by not celebrating my birthday. And my birthday does fall over the holidays. And starting in college, that's like a full month of break. So it's truly the worst time. Like beforehand, it's like maybe a few weeks before my birthday. It's not really time yet. And afterwards, it's like been weeks. So it makes a ton of sense that like rationally, I feel like I hear myself sounding self-centered and I think that's probably right.
It's hard for me to hear the story because I'm also like, no, fuck them. Like, they should do something for you. So I struggle with that. I know we just did a whole thing about like narcissism, that these are normal traits. It's important to have, but I'm like, no.
Sometimes it's okay to be a little irrational in small doses.
Is it irrational? I'm like, they should be doing something.
I think the thing is though, it's our lens because we grew up with such big birthday things.
I know, but if they're doing it for other people, like,
but those people have to work on their birthday, right? Or they have to go into class on their birthday or like whatever,
I didn't think
right?
about it like that.
And so I mean, you can.
I never thought about it like that. Like that, it was like to make the day more special since they have to be here versus just like a true like. Yeah. Oh my God, it's your birthday! I'm so excited.
I know. Yeah. No. Totally. But I do think that sometimes it's like fine to be a little irrational, but I do think that like there's been times in my life where I've let it color how I view people or how I assume people think about me when I need to be checking myself a little bit more. Like something like this happens, my birthday specifically, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm just like this person's least favorite, or I guess I'm just like like there's no other possible explanation, but this person doesn't like me that much. And then I act accordingly. I'm like, okay, if they don't like me very much, then I'm not going to go to any of their events, or I'm not going to like do anything special for them. Right. And like, I feel like I've tried to really, in more recent years, I feel like I've tried to really push against that and be like questioning what that's like, because again, we just broke down how there's flaws in that. And it ultimately shoots me in the foot. If I'm assuming they don't like me, so I'm engaging less, then I might be actually like putting myself out of a friendship or a like being, in whatever setting I'm in, putting myself in like a worse position to be well liked if I'm not like, contributing, because I assume it definitely means they don't like me or something. So I think that like that is where you get into a little bit of a pickle with it.
Yeah. I feel like what I was going to say in summary, like another thing is just in general, people can have traits or issues that don't necessarily have to be like a meeting full diagnostic criteria for a certain diagnosis. I feel like we have both like a mutual friend who experiences some traits of like OCD with like a lot of checking and a lot of like issues, who's had been resistant or worried about saying like I have OCD because it's not like the biggest thing, but it does somewhat interfere with her life and her happiness. And I'm like, no, it's okay. You don't have to like meet this full criteria in order to be someone that might benefit from like a therapist or from tools that work with people with OCD, like might also help you even if you don't have the full diagnosis. So I do think that's like just something to keep in mind in terms of like all these traits and things can live on a spectrum, and things can be helpful for you even if you don't have the full diagnosis of something.
Exactly. No, 100%. And I feel like before we like fully wrap up, this is maybe a bit of a tangent, but I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't shout out my good friend, Sarah, who is an avid listener of the podcast. She has some experience with like psychodynamic therapy, which is a type of therapy that I don't primarily practice. And we were having some intellectual discussions about it, and she pointed me toward a podcast on narcissism. And it did really, like, this is a topic that was originated in the psychodynamic field, this idea that actually we all have traits, and like it's not always that we are meeting a criteria or we do or don't have this disorder. We can really think about these things on a spectrum. I will say I think that now the world that I'm in, the like CBT, cognitive behavioral world, has started to adopt this too. But it really made me value how much like the psychodynamic field did to really like lay the foundation for this idea that, like narcissism, for example, as just an example, is something that like we think of as like, oh, that's only bad. And if you have high doses, you have this disorder, which that could be true. But that even if you have too low doses, that could be a problem too. Or if you have it somewhere in the middle, where even if you don't have narcissistic personality disorder, you're not even close to meeting criteria, it can still cause problems for you in the ways we mentioned. So I want to give her a shout out, because I feel like otherwise she might be listening to this, or others might be like, you didn't even mention, who know more about the field, like this whole background. Yes. So yeah.
Anyway, thanks for watching today.
Yes.
Yeah. And leave us a comment, like us, subscribe.
I know. Let us, subscribe, comment, like, share this with a friend. If you have found our banter fun, if you like listening to us every week, like, spread the word.
Share with your friend.
We're going to be a little narcissistic here and just kind of shameless self-promotion. Yes. Acknowledging the elephant in the room that maybe making this podcast is a little narcissistic. Share it with a friend. Tell them how great, if you think it's great, only tell them how great you think it is. And
it's okay if you are hate watching. That's okay.
Yeah. If you're hate watching, absolutely. But you still tune in every week and give us some listens.
We appreciate you.
Get some friends who also might want to hate watch us. Like, we respect you. We invite you in.
Okay. Thanks so much, guys.
Bye, everyone.
Catch you next week.